Good afternoon, all the panelists. I think the introductions have been nice from our MC, and we have heard a lot about you in the past. And this is the first time that I'm interacting with you. I think you've interacted with a lot of people from our editorial team in the past. So today, I would request my team, the first thing that I would do is, can we get the people in, please? So with that, we have Mr. Atul Tiwari, CHRO for Spice Money with us. Ruhie, Pande, CHRO for Godrej Capital and Godrej Fund Management. Mr. Parag, Bengali, Director HR Finance for Bisleri International. Sir, your distilleries have been served as you requested us. Yeah? Yeah, the business is happening and it's doing good. HR, this is the organization where HR is pushing the products in the market. Then we have Niharika, Mohan, Vohra, CHRO Luminous Technologies, and Mr. Abhishek, Misra, Head HR for Rockwell. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, as we are, this is the second last panel that we have and the lunch is going on. So we have to retain the crowd as well. So maybe they'll be back and joining us very soon. So the topic that we have today is achieving employee retention by creating a secure and comfortable workplace. So to start with, we'll take quick pointers from you that what are the best retention strategies that your organizations have adopted. And let's stick to, say, 30-second opening notes from your end. So you want more? So we'll start with Niharika.
I don't promise it to be 30 seconds, but I think let's just make the panel a little interesting so that we can have people coming in, right? What worked for us, I think, if we just have to reflect on the last 2 years and how COVID impacted and the learnings from there. Learnings for us as an organization at Luminous, and I'll try and be as precise as possible, is that there are 3 things that we focused a lot on. One was to give a sense of purpose to our people. Why they're coming to the organization, what is the larger mission of the organization, and for us in Luminous, it is to provide power to all, accessible to all, everywhere. So that was the first big mission that we had. Second, I would say, is we also underwent a lot of cultural change, and we tried to create a culture which was much more inclusive, much more flexible, much more agile. And I think we keep talking about hybrid work after 2 years of being in the pandemic. It is there to stay. So if we were able to get this right, which has helped us from a retention standpoint, definitely. And the third thing that I want to talk about, which never fades away when we talk about retention, is on growth opportunities. For us, the pandemic helped us because that meant that we ventured into areas that we hadn't earlier. And I was talking to one of my co-panelists as to how things have evolved. Much more focused on newer age technology. So when we talk about machine learning or connectivity, we as an organization have also branched out into solar and sustainability. So much richer portfolio we were able to offer, and we kind of used the pandemic as an opportunity. And these were the things which helped us. So to summarize, 1, the overall mission, stating it clearly, having everyone rally around it. 2, creating an organization and a culture which was much more inclusive. 3rd is to continue on the growth opportunities, giving more meaning to people, more new age technology roles to people. So that's what worked for us. Unfortunately, the answer has not been in 30 seconds.
Great. No, we want to hear more from you. And so moving to Abhishek, because the mic is there. So Abhishek, at Rockwell, what have been the challenges and how you have tackled, and what are the retention points that you can talk about?
Yeah, sure. So I think, pandemic was something which, and I always call it that, it was one of the biggest human experiments that hit us all, hit the mankind, right? But I think, for us, what has been the differentiator is, the whole culture piece, a differentiated culture which we could have created, for our employees. Now, what I mean by that, it's about putting people at the center of everything, right? And this is, very clearly reflected in our strategy. Our strategy is to bring the connected enterprise to life. And we say we can do it by great employees who can and want to do their best, right? So it's about creating a differentiated culture, putting people at the center of that, right? And when I say differentiated culture, it should be a culture where people should, feel they're here for a purpose. Working for an organization which believes in the values, particularly integrity and ethics, and also a culture which is, I would say, hugely innovative, and there is speed of decision making, and all of this came true for us during pandemic, and I think I would say that is what really helped us. That's how I'll sum it.
Thank you, Abhishek. So we'll talk a little to Parag ji.
Sure.
Parag ji, you come from a different kind of industry altogether,
Yes.
which is more of FMCG.
True.
And what I assume is that during pandemic, it was hit and the lockdowns were on. So the biggest challenge would be the supply chain that you would have had.
Yes.
So how did you retain that, and how did Bisleri reach my home? So that is something that I'd like to know. And maybe how did you retain the people when it was so scary outside? If you can throw some light on that.
So when the pandemic began, a couple of days we were not sure as to what to do, because the guidelines of governments were not very clear. They were saying you have to run the factory being essential, with people being inside the factory in so much radius, and you cannot move your trucks, and so many things were there, and we had to run pillar to post to understand what are the exact guidelines that have been framed for working of the people, running of the factory. Are we actually into essential? Some of the states were putting into essential, some of the states forgot to put, and what not were there. The other important thing was that trucks that were being carried, whether their own trucks or hired trucks, they were supposed to carry our goods, the license has to be taken, the permission has to be taken. A lot of challenges were there to begin with. So all our team members at different parts of India work continuously for a 1 week's time to go different government authorities to get the licenses. Plus all the people in the factory ensured that when you run the factory, we provide accommodation to people. If possible in the factory, we got some arrangement. But if not, then we ensured that they were accommodated close by hotels, which were very close by to us, because we know the transportation was closed. So we ensured that they stay so close by that they can come walking with the passes given to them of essentials. So that we ensured to begin with. We went to government authorities, put up a presentation, and we got this license for running the trucks also. These two things we essentially did it. Of course, it was a tough job, but people could manage to do it. Now, again, the issue was that, as the COVID kept on increasing, the areas were kept on being said, this is a restricted area, this is an open area. So when the truck goes to those areas, we don't know whether it can deliver or not. So we started moving towards e-commerce, which water industry is not used to it. It was an initial move which we made, and we said, okay, chalo, let's put our truck, go society to society. Of course, we are not allowed to go inside the society because a lot of society has a restriction. But we ensured that, okay, we are outside the gate to society. You will put whatever is required your security, you can take it and pay online model. So that was the initiative which we took, and this has helped us because now actually we are into e-com platform. What we call as a doorstep delivery, which we were not there. That was a good move we did. And the other thing which we did, that people were scared. अरे भाई अगर हम फैक्ट्री में हमको कुछ हो गया तो हमारा फैमिली का क्या? And everybody was worried. I mean, all of us. So what we did, the very first thing we did when the lockdown was announced on 22nd March, almost. On 25th or 26th, we took out for entire workforce of Bisleri plus all the contractual workers, including those who are working, manufacturing for us, the contract packers. We took out this COVID mediclaim policy, instant within 3 days. So that all field work, if by कुछ हुआ तो at least mediclaim है, कोई बात नहीं है. So only exclusively for COVID. Mediclaim में कोई बात नहीं, कुछ हुआ तो company will take care of all this thing. So we ensured that, and people are very happy. And subsequently, as we moved on, we took out the COVID death policy also. Suppose somebody dies with COVID, we managed that. And further to it, we went one line ahead, let us now work on a term life policy for employees. Because now we understood that, because of COVID, we don't know how the life moves on. So we gave the death policy or term life policy so that if something happens to employees, they get sizable amount from the insurance company, as well as from company also will support in different ways. And that's the way we ensure that employees are retained. They come to work. Of course, we ensured that nobody has to come daily for work. Rotation system we made, work from home we made. We ensured that we are connected through various platforms. But we tried to motivate employee and encourage employee to come as and when required. If your area permits, we also arrange the staff buses because how trains were closed across. How do we? So we also ensured that buses were arranged by us with the essential pass, so staff can come and go. And we had arranged a doctor in our premises, whole-time doctor, so that when our workers are there, the doctors will be there. If there is some problem, maybe cough, cold, fever, he can check and he can give an immediate treatment. And that's what we ensured. And we give all our workers the so-called vitamin injection because that was the immunity one. So we try to do all possible things to ensure that people are retained, they come to factory and do best possible job for us.
So excellent. So Parag, what was the kind of response that you got, and were the people who left you during this phase, or everyone was retained?
Till now, all are with us.
Great. So
that's the achievement that I can say that we could manage to do it.
So I think that needs a round of applause for Bisleri.
Thank you.
So moving on, we'll go to Ruhie ji. Ruhie, you come from a different background, again, that's into capital and finance. And you have a lot of people, probably you would have moved to the hybrid work model, which Parag ji couldn't. So, I would also like to discuss on the comfort that we spoke about from the women's perspective in the organizations and the LGBTQ community. How do we make our organizations more inclusive? And the other part that comes to you is about the retention as well.
Sure. No, great stuff spoken by all my co-panelists here. I'll just take a short 2 bits at retention and then come to your specific question about DEI. I feel like 50% of your attrition challenges could be sorted right at the time of hiring. And we are a company which is born during the pandemic. And one of the things we have done huge amount of work around is the best hiring practices. So whether it's training our managers to hire the right fit, to have psychometric assessments to assess whether the person is not just a good functional but also a cultural fit. Because unless the person joins you for the right motivations, or unless the person is actually fitted for your job, attrition will happen. Again, attrition depends on the kind of industry. Some industries operate at a baseline of 20-25% industry. I come from one of those, financial services. I'm sure there are multiple banks and institutions doing various practices. But some of the things which have worked for us, I would say, beyond, of course, ensuring that people are taken care of, work-life balance is maintained, right, compensation is paid, because those are fundamental hygiene. I reflect back on a point raised by Niharika, is the entire concept of the connect to the larger purpose, so which is in research called psychological contract. You were referring to it, right, that at one point of time, people would stay with their supervisor or boss because you stood by them in such times. What Parag was talking about was a classic example. So having the right purpose and ensuring that on a daily basis your employees can connect with it. One of the things we did during the pandemic was amazing amount of strategic clarity given to us by our leaders. Nisa, Pirosha, the group's leaders stood tall, coming in front, having constant open houses, communication, saying your safety is of paramount importance and nothing else will allow us to compromise. Having constant communication, skip sessions, HR team reaching out, well-being of employees being taken care of. So I think the moment there is, if you get over the fundamental hygienes, now obviously if you have a bad boss, attrition will happen. But I'm assuming that your fundamental issues of pay, recognition, culture are sorted, what will truly keep people with you, and especially millennials, we have 85% of our workforce, which is either Generation Z or millennials, is the psychological contract. They will not stay. Even if you give them everything, you give them the best of perks, unless they see that very strong psychological connect, they will try to jump onto another con. And diversity, equity, and inclusion is a fantastic way of weaving that in. Millennials are very concerned about how they are giving back. What is the larger purpose of the organization? At Godrej, one of the things we thrive on is our inclusivity. One of our value proposition is called whole self. We say that we are hiring you for who you are. Bring that to work every day. Do we need to become different people when we work? Do we dress differently? We have people in our teams who are cross-dressers, but they are there in the organization for the value they bring on. So whether it's working with women, whether it's working with the LGBTQ community, being authentic, being outright there, ensuring you have enough representation from those communities, having conversations which are true and reflective. Once you start going on a path towards that, you will see that more and more people will understand this organization is doing stuff which is just beyond work. It weaves in beautifully into your overall business strategy and thereby retention.
Thank you. So moving on, so let's also talk about spice money now. So with Atul, what I would like to understand that what are the key things now apart from retention, the policies and the changes and coming from a legacy that you have as an organization. So what all are the things that you have noticed that are key ingredients that have helped you retain the best of the people?
Yeah, so I think very wonderful points made by all the co-panelists. Some of the things which I definitely, like Anu Malik, I'll also pick up and try to implement. But I think there were three major things which we looked into. We are a fintech organization present across 450 plus districts. So it's a very distributed workforce. Sales team which is on the ground who is actually meeting and getting the business done for us. So one was there's psychological care which we can take care of. So two things which we did. One, we said we care for you is something in terms of their medical pieces, any support or any help which is required, that we have ensured in terms of policy or in terms of a volunteer task force group, which they can help not only for employees but for their families as well. So that is one piece which we have done. The second piece, which was a very bold statement though, but we have done it confidently, is that we said that there is no fear of job loss. So even if it is a pandemic, whether how we are doing it as a business, but there is no job loss which is going to happen for anyone. That gives a big sense of, belongingness and relief for also employees, I believe. And with, of course, is what it is with the caveat that we all should perform with the core of our heart without being non-performer. Right, so this is one piece which we looked at it. The second is also what we have done is because we realized also very quickly that there is going to be a big shift in the whole mindset, the skill set requirement also for people. So in that case, what we have done is we have rolled out a DAP, we call it Development Assistance Program, wherein we have opened up for employees any kind of a certification or skill enhancement program which you want to do, you can do it. Post successful completion, you can get it reimbursed from the organization. Of course, we put a limit, but it should be relevant for your role. That is also something which was there, and they can enhance their skills. So that is one piece which we did. The second was also on enabling and empowering people, because this was a completely new world. So even managers or leaders and team members, they all were not aware of, or they were not capable how to handle teams, right, in a remote work model, because everything was remotely being done. So even a manager, if sitting in front of his team or her team is sitting in front of them, it was more easy for them to manage productivity or getting the outcomes. But now somebody sitting in one corner of the world, another sitting on another corner of the world, how we are measuring the productivity and how I'm managing the teams, it was the biggest challenge. Even now, I see that it is a big challenge. People are clueless, and very less focus has been unfortunately done on that part. So we have also tried to enable and empower people and educate them that how you should handle your teams in a remote workforce environment. That really helped in terms of your connect with your team members, and there were a lot of elements. We introduced all hands meet, we introduced Varta. There is a dedicated call which happens by a manager to their respective team members other than work, right? You'll have a conversation. Otherwise, usually what happens is, okay, come on Zoom call, we have to discuss this. Come on Google Meet, we have to discuss this. Or okay, I'll make a phone call and we have to discuss. But the discussion was always around the work. So we have made it mandatory, and we realized it in the course of time that there is a conversation and a formal structure should be set in place wherein without other than work there should be some conversation which should happen. The third piece was also which we made a change more on the compensation part. That was very important, and we being startups are known for creating wealth. So I was just sharing with Niharika that we actually launched a wealth plan. And wealth plan has two elements. One was equity plan, ESOPs, and second was a cash plan. And it depends on how you, what is the need of the person, right? So cash plan, what we did that, for example, if somebody is at 10 lakh rupees today as a CTC, what we have done, we have rolled out that as a wealth plan to the employee, that this 10 lakh rupees, I will give it to you as a guaranteed amount in the percentage of 10%, 20%, 30%, 40% in next 4 years. Right, and this is over and above your incentives, this is over and above your year-on-year increment and all the rewards or benefits which you're going to get. And trust me, it has worked so very well for us. Our attrition was 32%, it has gone down to 7.5%. And equity was something which we have looked at it, wherein, of course, there are people who see the long-term perspective and they have joined startup organization like us to create wealth. And there we have rewarded people with the ESOPs. And this has something which has really made one major change which we did in terms of the compensation is also we had made it flexible. So what we have done is we have given the flexibility to people how you want to define your compensation structure. So anybody who is keen to take fixed component as part of their CTC, we have given that flexibility because we also understand and appreciate that certain age group is there, certain people are there, their demands are or needs are different, right? So somebody needs the cash at that point of their time, majorly mid-layer, right? They are getting married, their kids are having, now they want to go to school. So cash component is something which is more important for them. So they have designed their compensation basis their need. Somebody wants, okay, I'm okay with less fixed, but more of ESOPs, we have given that flexibility. So that is a flexibility which we give, and it really helped us in terms of retaining the talent. 2-3 things which majorly on the policy side which you asked is that we have abolished the leave approval system. If you have a leave balance, it is your right, you can get it. There is no manager approval required. We have looked at the data. 99% of the times manager usually approve the data, right? It becomes more of an administrative task for them to go and approve it. So we have abolished that. We have introduced hobby leaves, that you can take hobby leaves for your pursuing your hobbies, knowing the factor that there are no boundaries for people to work on. The third piece is also we have introduced special moments leave. So we have gone away with birthday or anniversary leaves. So it is special moments. First day of my kid in school is a special moment for me. I want to take a leave. My wife's birthday, I want to take a leave. My parents' birthday or anniversary, I want to take a leave. So likewise, we have done that. There is a special moments leave which you can go ahead with. Especially on the diversity side, we have also introduced, knowing our Indian ecosystem where we operate at, no matter what. Women are certainly still have a more responsibility towards the household, towards the kid and family. So what we have done is we have introduced me hour. So one day, in each day, 1 hour, women can take off any time basis their convenience. So that is something which we have introduced more from a policy standpoint. But these were some of the things which has really helped us in terms of retaining a talent and also the workforce which we see as an engagement level of our organization vis-a-vis industry. When we have some tools which we have put in, it is always 90 plus which we have looked at.
So you spiced it up. You didn't sound like
the life of people. Yeah.
You didn't sound like Anu Malik. You didn't overlap all the things. So that he doesn't complain again that he sounds like Anu Malik. So we'll have the next question to him, and I would request to make it very short.
Sure.
So what we need to understand that why people stay and why people leave, and we spoke about good and bad bosses. Bad boss versus remuneration is what I would like to know.
So I think, to be very frank, our company is Spice Money, and I believe money is very important element in the current scheme of things, no matter what, right? हम सारा इंटरव्यू कर लेते हैं, कल्चरल फिटमेंट होता है, असेसमेंट होता है, बट बाद में बात रोकड़े पे रुकती है. एंड लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स देन पीपल से अच्छा अगर ये नहीं था बजट तो कैंडिडेट से राइट बजट ही नहीं था तो मेरा टाइम क्यों वेस्ट किया. सो मनी इज सर्टेनली and unfortunately or fortunately whatever we say, but that's the reality of life. That is very important part. And nowadays people definitely see what is in there for me from two perspectives. One, self, and self comes two elements of money as well as my growth in the organization, right? So since you have asked me between money and boss, I would still say money, because in life I think two things you can't choose. One is your mother-in-law and other is boss. So right, so
no, you can choose your mother-in-law. You always have a choice.
No, provided I mean usually we choose the boy or a girl, and then mother-in-law is
secondary
substitute of that.
All right. I think I have a different point of view on that.
Please go ahead.
So while money can be the first step when you're getting someone in, because at that point the person doesn't know the boss. So I think definitely when you're attracting someone, when you're getting someone in the organization, money is a great lever. And currently in the last year or so, we've seen that with the great resignation which is happening, which is now toning down. Salary increases are also toning down. We're back to almost single digit, vis-a-vis what was predicted earlier, which was going to be double digit. Having said that, once a person is in, it is the manager, because manager is the face of the organization for the employee. So therefore, if the manager is inspiring, is empowering, is able to connect, and all that we spoke about earlier, the element of care, flexibility, empowerment, that is a big stay factor. And I think a lot of researchers have gone into that, which really point out that it is the fundamental lever for a person to leave the organization is the manager. So therefore, I have a different point of view on this.
You really
just to add.
Yeah, please, Parag.
To add to what she said about manager, every manager has to be HR manager of his own department, because till the time he is not the HR manager of his own department, the department will remain as it is. There will be no change happening in the department. So if each manager, as she said correctly, if becomes a real good boss and looks after the team about their skills, about their emotional everything, I think the team will do wonders.
So moving on to Abhishek.
Yeah, so
please.
maybe I'll just add on to that, see.
Yeah, I have a very good panel that I don't have to moderate. They are doing it themselves.
See, money is table stakes, right? But beyond a point, money can't be differentiator, right? And I think, that is a point where there are other differentiators which come in. And yes, probably manager being the most important one, because that's the closest to the employee, right? And that's what we kind of, leveraged on in Rockwell. So what we did is we have been constantly empowering our managers. Really how, and the thing is, and let's take the example of, the whole pandemic and how after the pandemic subsided, it was time to come back to office. And different teams, depending on what part of the function they are, had different needs. While we broadly created a hybrid workplace program, but we left it for the individual managers and their team to decide what suits best for them, right? For some, it might be, 2 days in office, and maybe, they do all the team meetings during those 2 days, and rest is flexible. For some other teams, it might be some other way. But we said instead of one, fixed thing for everyone, one size fits all. We give that empowerment and flexibility to the manager to decide. And how it helped was each manager knew its team very well and what suited their purpose individually, and hence they tuned their own return to work very flexibly. So this is just an example how managers have been able to create that differentiation.
Perfect. So moving to Parag once again. What is your take on good and bad? I think you are a very good boss. So what is your take on the other people who are around, and how do you tackle the situations and make the culture a little better for the organization? I think the solution would be a better answer.
See, I mean, if you ask me, there's nothing like a good and bad manager. Everybody who joins the company, when we take that person, is supposed to be good, that's why we take in the company. Once that person comes in the company, then he understands what is happening. Accordingly, he changes the way he think or he wants to function. To first point, it's for company to ensure that he is given that kind of induction to know what the company is, what the culture of the company is, how the company is functioning, to make him aware that he cannot just replicate what he has done in previous organizations. He has to do the thing differently when he comes in the new setup. If he is not being inducted the way, if he is not being made understand the company's culture, then he automatically becomes bad boss, though he may not be really look like from his past experience. So that's the fun thing. Second, when I say bad boss from his colleagues or from his peers perspective, it can be a case, because if he has got a attitude issue or he's got a issue of I know everything, is going to be a very common case that he is going to behave. That's where the company comes into a place to part of their L&D session or part of a learning session, keep on talking to him, keep on giving feedback to him that what is happening within his department, with his peers, with his colleagues, so that he keeps on understanding that he has to correct, he has to improve and whatnot. Now coming to the exit or retention from a good or bad, it's very clear that if a boss is bad, the people under him will not like to work for a longer period of time. That's very, very common. But a company or HR of any company has to keep on having continuous feedback with all the employees to understand how they are doing, is their job role clear to them, are they happy with their bosses, what is the feedback in a true and transparent way. So if this kind of feedback sessions are done regularly, continuously, the attrition level also goes down and retention also can increase. That's my view on a good and bad boss.
Thank you, Parag. So coming to Ruhie. Ruhie, what is your take on, one as the boss's aspect, the monetary, and this will be the last question that I would have, is that retaining the women employees in the organization and how those challenges are met. So if you can keep it a little short, I'll ask Niharika as well on this aspect, because
Sure.
rest of the people can be on the other side on this question.
Sure, no, I'll try to be as short as possible. So the first question between money and manager, I would say culture, manager, definitely, because money is replicable, culture is not. Like they say, the culture eats strategy for breakfast. So at the end of the day, if you have the right people, I would say the company can go far more. Compromising a little bit here and there on money is fine. Your second question is specific to women retention. I think it's a subject which has to be studied very deeply. Men and women, and to that extent now that we're hiring the third gender, the needs are very different at various stages. So couple of very important things for women would be, first of all, for them to ensure that they fit in and they don't see a glass ceiling in the organization. So they're considering that they would have various life stages. What are the kind of policies the organization has? Secondly, how are you making them feel welcome when they are coming back from their various stages of life? A returning mother, someone who's just getting married and coming. Last but not the least, programs which are totally targeted towards developing women. I agree with Niharika's point on growth being a very strong retention lever. But how are you going to ensure that women see in this organization that there is a fair share in promotions, there's a fair share in how they are growing? And last but not the least, the more women who can be given seat at the table, right at the top for other women to look up to them and aspire, the better it is.
Actually, I would have preferred it if you'd asked one of the male co-panelists here. I can keep talking about it, Ruhie can keep talking about it, but change will happen
let's pass it on to Abhishek.
All of us. But having said that, I will answer your question, but this is for future. I think it's important that everyone in the room talks about the subject. It's not just me as a woman who has to address that. Couple of points. I think first that Ruhie very clearly articulated. For a woman to stay in the organization, it's all about career growth. Please remember, women are as ambitious as men or any other gender. You show them growth opportunities, they will stay with you. So that's prime. First big one. Second is the kind of culture, flexibility, and we have to remember again, when we talk about policies, they have to be gender agnostic. For men, parenting is important, and we see men playing larger role in parenting going forward. They need the flexibility. We spoke about millennials who have their passion to follow. They need flexibility. So it is not about women only wanting flexibility. In Luminous, all policies are gender agnostic. That's my point number 2. And that's a big call out. Third is obviously, right, when we talk about growth and we talk about women's enhancement and advancement in the organization, it's important that we keep talking about and reiterating the gender stereotypes or the biases which creep into all your HR processes. So what are the checks and the balances that we do in the organization when we talk about promotion, when we talk about performance management? Those checks and balances have to be there. Fifth one, very importantly, women themselves being advocates for the other women. I think we do very less of that. How is it that we can promote women more within the organization? Last but not the least, who's the promoter of this cause in the organization? Is it the HR? Is it the CEO? It will not work if it's not the CEO. So promotion by the CEO and the top brass is very important when we talk about inclusion. That's my 5 cents on this.
Thank you. So, moving to Abhishek.
And maybe I completely agree with what Niharika and Ruhie said, and would just add a bit that, see, it has not been a level playing field, right? I mean, we take the statistics, women leaders in boards or in parliaments of the world, it's not a level playing field as of now. The world is moving towards that. And what that really calls for is, I think, allyship and sponsorship, right? In all aspects, whether it is attracting, developing, growth, or making, I would say, gender agnostic policies. I think there has to be huge amount of work happening in sponsoring and allyship in all these aspects. And this starts right from the top leader. So that's why I would say, and that's where, at least in Rockwell Automation, we have been doing huge amount of work in really making sure that, our women leaders and budding women talent, they are sponsored and they have an ally in the organization. And touch wood, hopefully we are moving in the right direction and are seeing some, fruitful good outcomes. So I would just like to add that.
Thank you. Thanks, Abhishek. So I think the red screen is there for us, and it's been there for a while. So we spoke about certain aspects, and I think the purpose is defined, and you have a lot of leaders out here, HR leaders and founders and people. We spoke about the purpose, giving certain rights to people, empowering people in the organizations. We spoke about money being the driver of retention versus the culture being the driver. So there is no end to the discussion. It's like we have to hear each other and incorporate whatever best we can do and accept policies and the changes which are coming into the system, and how we evolve is the thing. So we have reached, in past 75 years, we have seen a lot of changes in HR that have come in. And I'd like to add one more thing, that we are on 24th of September this year, we are having an event that's called CEO CHRO Conclave. And everyone is invited, and it will be a virtual summit that we are doing. We're talking about evolution of HR in past 75 years. We're talking about the POSHs, we are talking about labor laws, and the kind of policies which have come in these years, and from the times of British, we had certain policies. Now you have Tatas who came up with a lot of initiatives which were later incorporated into the labor policies. So we'll be talking about all that and how evolution is happening. So we would request all of you to be a part of that. And with this, I would like to thank the esteemed panel out here. Atul, thanks a lot. Ruhie.
Thank you.
Parag ji, Niharika, and Abhishek. Thanks for being here. Take care.